All right, let's get going. And Melissa, hello, Melissa. I'm going to do a better job trying to keep up with the comments and questions as they come in. Hello, Jalen. And I'll probably fail miserably, but I'm going to try. So if you see me doing this repeatedly, it's because I'm trying to keep up with the comments. Okay, let's get started. Ready? Three, two, one. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night law talk. And this is one that this old prosecutor could not pass up. Yes, I know we have a lot going on. I know sometimes it seems like things go from bad to worse, from dark to darker, and we're going to have to endure some of that before we come back into the light. Hello, Rockford. Um, but from a career prosecutor's perspective, when I saw the reporting about what the Trump administration and Pam Bondi's dirty DOJ officials tried to do to hundreds of Guatemalan children, I was pretty effing incensed. Not only what they tried to do, but then what they went into court and represented to a federal court judge. This is like, it's difficult to believe that these things are really happening. You know, it doesn't feel like something that The Onion, the satirical site, would post. It just because there's nothing funny about it. It's just it's beyond belief for career prosecutors, probably for career defense attorneys, for anybody who operates in the criminal justice system or the legal system, and frankly, for anybody who doesn't. I mean, this is really difficult to believe um, this is happening in our courts. So I wanted to focus on this story rather than the Charlie Kirk thing, rather than the 9/11 remembrances, which I intend no disrespect. That was something that will always be seared into our memories, burned into our hearts. Nearly 3,000 people murdered. And now, of course, we have an administration that are murdering people on the high seas unlawfully, absolutely unlawfully, with no straight-faced argument that when you blow 11 people out of the water, 11 human beings who now we know had even turned their boat around, were heading back. You know, that is just, it's murder. It is murder, plain and simple. There's no defense. There's no straight-faced argument. You don't get to say, I hereby declare you terrorists. Boom. Not the way any of this works. So I don't mean to get derailed on all of that. But I do want to talk about this horrific story, and I'm going to try to do it by the numbers. So, one, the Department of Justice, the Trump administration, literally hundreds of Guatemalan children who are in the U.S., pulled them out of bed. I'm not making this up. This is in the reporting. Frightened them. That's a quote from a DOJ attorney. Stuffed them on planes and tried to send them back to Guatemala, send them to Guatemala, violating their due process rights of notice and opportunity to be heard in court before they're deported. And fortunately, folks representing these children ran to court and they convinced a judge, Judge Suknanen is her name, DC Federal Circuit, DC Federal Trial Court judge, to put a block on it, issue an injunction, put a stop to it. Thank goodness. And then, after that stop was put in place, a DOJ official named Drew Ensign, guy who's been at DOJ for, a number of months, guy with no experience at the Department of Justice, but a Trump Pam Bondi flunky with a capital flunk. That's how much of a flunky he is, capital flunk. Drew Ensign went into court and told Judge Suknanen, are you ready for this? This is a quote. All of the children they were trying to deport, in the dead of night, quote, all of these children have parents or guardians in Guatemala who have requested their return. That is a quote from Drew Ensign in court. All these children, hundreds of Guatemalan children who are in the United States, all of them have parents and guardians in Guatemala who are demanding their return. That is what Drew Ensign told Judge Suknanen. And then he wasn't done because Judge Suknanen was having none of it. And so Drew Ensign said it is outrageous that the plaintiffs and the judge are trying to interfere with these reunifications of children with their parents and guardians in Guatemala. It was outrageous. Then the Trump administration, White House officials, and allies said the following. According to the reporting, they hammered, White House officials and Trump allies hammered District Judge Suknanen, for blocking the deportations, accusing her of seeking to block children from reunifying with their families. So I'm just setting it up, friends, because guess what? After all of that, after those statements that Drew Ensign made in federal court, the truth came out. The truth, as provided, evidence provided by the Guatemalan government was, are you ready? None of the parents or guardians wanted their children deported from the U.S. back to Guatemala because they wanted their children to remain in the United States for the economic opportunities the United States presented to their children. Drew Ensign said all of those children, every last one of those hundreds of children, had parents and guardians in Guatemala that demanded their return. And the truth was none, not one parent or guardian, that position, not one. So then what happened was there was another hearing held in this case, and Drew Ensign was a ghost. Where to be found? He didn't go back into court after he had lied to the judge. All parents wanted, when in fact the true state of affairs was no parents wanted their children deported back. They wanted them to remain in the U.S. for the economic opportunities presented by our country. Instead, some other Trump flunky DOJ official appeared in court. And here is how we know Drew Ensign lied, not only because what the Guatemalan government provided by way of evidence, the true state of affairs, but there was a lawyer named Sarah Welch. She's been at the Department of Justice for a cup of coffee. I think she joined DOJ in March. Again, these people have no business being in federal court doing anything. And this attorney, DOJ attorney, who was the assistant attorney general for the Justice's Civil Division, these are people who typically don't go to court. There are no line attorneys going to court. It's just DOJ officials, flunkies of Donald Trump and Pam Bondi's. And this attorney, Sarah Welch, said that the administration, the Trump administration, and DOJ's initial claim that parents had requested their children's return should be considered, quote, withdrawn. So first of all, she said, withdraw the claim that the parents and the guardians want them back. In other words, you lied about it, you got caught, and now you want to withdraw and retract your lie. It's not so easy, Sarah. Not so easy, because Drew Ensign told that big fat lie to try to trample the rights of those children and whisk them away in the middle of the night in violation of their due process rights. It doesn't make it right when you say we withdraw, we take back, we retract those earlier lies. Here is what Sarah Welsh, the attorney who went in to retract Drew Enson's lies, also said. She lamented the government's rushed effort to rouse the children from bed and deport them overnight on a holiday weekend. Isn't it lovely that the DOJ lawyers lament that kind of horrific mistreatment of children in violation of the US Constitution by offering lies to a judge to try to cover up what they were really doing? She lamented it. Bully for you, Sarah, lamenting that horrific conduct by DOJ officials. Here's a quote from Sarah Welch. Quote, "It was unfortunate that children were frightened and pulled out in the middle of the night and rushed onto waiting airplanes." That was, quote, unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we did that. Woke them in the middle of the night, frightened them, rushed them onto waiting airplanes, lied to the court, and tried to deport them in violation of the Constitution. It's really unfortunate that we did that. Let's all lament it. And I am so caught up in the horror of the story that I didn't keep my promise and tried to. Uneffing fortunate. Yeah, I'm with you, Claire. I cleaned that one up a little bit. Soulless. Yes, it is soulless, Dr. Joe. Two DOJ lies don't make the truth. And lamenting and retracting your lies that you tried to use to trample the constitutional rights of children, lamenting and retracting doesn't quite cut it. All right, let me see. Hello, doll. You'd like to sponsor? Yeah, we'd all like to sponsor these children. No kidding. Hello, Judy. Land on those lawyers like a ton of bricks, Judy says. Let's talk about landing on those lawyers like a ton of bricks, figuratively, because we don't do violence here, do we? No, we don't. So what's next? Well, now the case has been transferred to Judge Tim Kelly. It started out with Judge Suknanen. On an emergency basis, she put the injunction in place. She was lied to. Now it's assigned to Judge Tim Kelly, a Trump appointee, who was also a former prosecutor from my old office, the DC U.S. Attorney's Office, a well-regarded prosecutor, and has presided over some J6 trials, has done fairly well. I won't say I agree with everything he does, but I don't think he is the kind of Trump lawyer, third tries a charm, Trump judge like Aileen Cannon, right, who distinguished herself as being, incapable of making a fair, independent, and impartial decision. So I think Tim Kelly is doing a pretty good job. So he'll have to decide now, moving forward, what to do. Not only what to do in the case, but more importantly, what to do with lawyers who lie to him. And mind you, this is not the first time Drew Enson has had challenges with candor before the court, to put it mildly. The Politico reporting indicates that he's also the guy who wasn't straight with Judge Sines any number of times in the Abrego Garcia deportation matter. And he was also the one who engaged in some misdirection before Chief Judge James Boasberg when the Trump administration unlawfully and unconstitutionally sent Venezuelan immigrants off to prison in El Salvador. Drew Enson played some games there, wasn't exactly straight, candid, or truthful with Judge Boasberg. So he's a repeat offender. And this is the most horrific lie, lying about all of the parents wanting their children deported back to Guatemala, when the reality is none of them did, not one. And he told those lies in his zeal to get those children stuffed onto a plane in the middle of the night and violate the Constitution by getting them the hell out of the United States. So Judge Kelly will have to decide, first of all, what to do with the case. but more importantly, for the integrity of the system. When the Drew Ensigns of the world lie to courts, they make a mockery of the judge. They make a mockery of the system, the criminal justice system or the civil justice system. They make a mockery of the parents who are in an impossible position. Do they want their kids back in Guatemala, or do they want them to hopefully enjoy the benefits that the United States has to offer them? Lies about their desires, and it makes a mockery of the children and the Constitution. What do we do about it? I know what we do about it. The judge should issue what's called a show cause order. When attorneys engage in misconduct, when they lie to the court, the judge can order them to show cause why they shouldn't be held in contempt. The judge can order them to show cause why they shouldn't be barred from the courtroom, if not the courthouse, barred from appearing as an attorney for the Department of Justice for the people in this litigation. That's what judges should do, because if they don't, what they're doing is tacitly accepting those lies with no accountability. And worse, they're tacitly encouraging other dirty DOJ officials. And I don't want to say it's the dirty DOJ, because still the majority of the 110,000 employees are good, hardworking, honest, honorable attorneys trying to do the work of the American people. Of course, they're not being permitted to, right? They're being driven out if they show loyalty to the rule of law and the Constitution, as opposed to showing complete and utter loyalty, indeed fealty, to Donald Trump. They're being driven out. Some are being wrongfully terminated. Some are self-selecting and leaving because they can't bear to work under Donald Trump or his consigliere, Pam Bondi, and I understand that. But if the courts don't hold these lying DOJ officials accountable in a very concrete way and promptly, you are tacitly endorsing, accepting, and even encouraging more lies by Donald Trump's flunkies with a capital flunk. And we can't have that. It seems that if we don't start going harder, then we're just giving it all away. We have to start going harder in accordance with the law, in accordance with the Constitution. But we can go pretty hard after lawyers who lie to federal judges. They need to pay the price. And I hope to heck Judge Kelly takes these lies deadly seriously. I'm going to try to catch up with all of the comments that have been coming in. And let's see. Hello, Dimitri. Hello, Glass City Kitty. Welcome for the first time. I think that's a new name. Yes, people are demanding that they be held accountable, and I couldn't agree more. They should be disbarred. And here's the other good news. Anybody can make a bar referral of an attorney for misconduct. You don't have to be a party in the case. And I know there are great nonprofits out there that are pretty aggressive and in real time try to make referrals to the state bar, where I don't know where Drew Ensign is admitted as a lawyer, but he ought to be investigated, sanctioned, and disbarred. He should be. When you lie about such a grave matter and you demean and disrespect the parents who are already struggling, and you obviously victimize the children, and you trample all over the Constitution, you need to go as an attorney. You need to be disbarred. And this guy is a repeat offender. And yet he's still a DOJ official. I know he's Donald Trump and Pam Bondi's kind of guy, right? Because the truth doesn't really matter to them. Loyalty to the rule of law doesn't really matter to them. No, I don't think the military has any jurisdiction. Josie asks to arrest these folks. They don't fall under military jurisdiction. But we need to shine a light on them. You're right. I'm trying to figure out who just said that. It's tough for me to access these comments. Um, Koshin, yes, Koshin said that. Yeah, I absolutely agree. We need to be the ones that shine a light on it. I haven't seen much reporting about this. I'm not watching much legacy media, corporate media these days, but um, I haven't seen a whole lot of time when I have flipped the channels on this kind of stuff. I didn't even get to Cash Patel in tonight's talk, but I've got that on my desk along with. I think I may have said this before. As a career prosecutor, I used to have briefs piled up and legal opinions because I printed out everything. I recycled it, but I printed it all out, piled up all around my office. And yet here I am in the afterlife, having left the Department of Justice, and I feel like I have more briefs and legal opinions piled up now than I had as a career prosecutor, trying to pour through every one. I'll get to Cash Patel probably tomorrow. Maybe Friday we'll air it out a little. Try to include multiple stories, legal developments because they're piling up pretty quickly. And I think what I'm going to end with, because we're in this time of political peril, we're in this time of the violent rhetoric, and not to mention violent conduct ratcheting up to frightening levels. We will remain peaceful, will remain respectful to the extent that, we don't make fun or make light of political violence. We know the Republicans did that, whether it was Paul Pelosi or, it inspires memes and jokes. And that is the exact opposite of how political violence should be met by the people, because everything and everyone loses when anyone engages in political violence, right, left, center, apolitical. And, we have to do what we can to combat it. So, and I know we will. And I know that is why you all are here, why we are together pretty much every night, why we are a team justice. And, from what I understand, justice matters. But we'll stay at it. We'll stay at it. All right, everybody. Thanks for jumping on with me tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night to try to air out multiple issues that have kind of unfolded that I haven't quite caught up with this week. But have a great rest of your Thursday night. Please have a good Friday and the run up to the weekend. And I'll see you all tomorrow evening.